Today, I'll be going over the exact system that I use to build the discipline necessary to 125x my personal brand in less than 2 weeks. All without the fancy planners or high effort productivity tactics that do more harm than good. Let's not waste any time and get right into it. For starters, it's important that you understand where I came from. I used to be somebody who was very undisciplined, right? I'd spend hours upon hours doom scrolling, hours upon hours watching anime, right? This right here is almost 1,000 hours of just watching anime. And that's just what's on this app. This isn't considering all the time I spent on YouTube, all the time I spent on Netflix, right? If we were to add all of that up, it would be upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 hours just on this alone. And then there's video games. Video games is a very big thing I had to get over, right? There would be days where I'd stay up all the way till 8 in the morning just on the game, right? And this was very unproductive. This made me undisciplined. And I had dreams I was trying to achieve, right? I had goals that I wanted to accomplish. But because I was spending so much time and effort on all of this stuff here, it was very difficult for me to get those things done. And after reflecting on all of this, it dawned upon me, I'm actually pretty lazy, right? I was very lazy. But then I thought about it. Okay, I'm lazy. What if I was able to position this laziness in a way where it would actually help me achieve my goals? What if I could make discipline so easy, so frictionless, that it would be harder for me to not achieve my goals? So I embarked on a journey to find out how exactly I would do that. And it worked, right? This was my personal brand around about 2 weeks ago. On October 8th, I only had 211 followers, right? But today, at the time of recording this video, I've scaled it to over 26,000 followers because over the course of the past few months, I built a system that made discipline so frictionless that, again, it was harder for me to not get this result. So how exactly did I do it? Well, that leads me to the frictionless discipline framework, a framework that makes discipline so simple that even a baby could do it, right? And it's a 3-step framework. The first step in this framework being the foundations. And what you want to do, first thing you want to do in this foundation is establish an intent. Why do you even want to become disciplined? Why bother? What's in it for you, right? There's a reason you're watching this video. There's a reason that this title, the thumbnail captivated your attention and thought, oh, I wanted to be disciplined too. Let me find out what this guy is talking about. Whatever that may be for you, right? Whatever the case is, maybe you want to grow in your business. Maybe you're like me and you want to scale your personal brand. Or maybe you're trying to get right in the gym. Whatever the case may be, you clicked on this video for a reason. And you want to establish that. You want to understand, set it in stone, write it down somewhere, right? Put it on your wall, paste it somewhere so you can see it every day and understand why exactly you're embarking on this journey. And once you've got this goal in mind, once you've understood this intention, there's something that you need to understand. It's your fault, right? The reason that you haven't already achieved that goal is you, right? The choices that you've made, your mindset, the decisions, the actions that you took, all of them came together, they joined together and led to the position that you're in right now. So the you that you are right now, the you that you are currently is the reason that you aren't achieving your goals. So this version of yourself has to be eliminated. They have to be removed in order for you to evolve into the person capable of achieving said goal, into the person who has the discipline needed in order to make that goal, make that dream into a reality. But there's also a caveat, because you can use this mindset of the current you to assist in the transition of getting rid of the old you and becoming that new version of yourself. But more on that later. Once you've understood that the reason you're in the current position you're in right now is because of you, we move on to the next step, right? We've established our intention, but now what you need to do is list out the 3 most important actions in order to make that intent a reality, right? For me, it was to scale my personal brand. So the 3 most important things that I had to do was, first of all, get good ideas, script, content, and record it, right? These are the 3 main tasks, like the 3 most highest lever moving tasks that allow me to achieve my goal of scaling my personal brand. Now that we've got the foundations out of the way, that moves us to our next step, which is to make it frictionless, right? Now, in order to make it frictionless, you need to understand this concept called activation energy. Right, in chemistry, there's this thing called activation energy, which is essentially the amount of energy that is required to start a reaction. And if we were to put it on a graph, it would look a little bit like this, right? You're starting here, when you have to, we have energy on our y-axis, the task that you're doing on the x-axis, right? You start here, right? Task is up here, but in order to actually start that task, there's a spike in energy that's required for you to actually get started. But once you actually start the task, right, that energy required drops, and it drops all the way down. and you'll reach this little plateau where you're essentially in a flow state and the task is very easy to do, right? You've experienced this before, right? You've had this big project, maybe this big assignment that you had to do, and you just really didn't want to do it. But once you actually started, once you actually got into the flow of things, you're like, wait a second, this is a lot easier than I was making it out to be. I thought it was this whole big thing that's going to take forever for me to do. But then when you start doing it, you realize, oh, it's actually a lot simple. It's actually very simple. This is actually easy. What the heck was I procrastinating about? But the biggest problem is getting over this point right here, right? Getting over this hump to actually get into that flow of work. Well, in chemistry, you also learn about this thing called a catalyst. And what a catalyst does is essentially lowers the amount of activation energy required to start the reaction, or in this case, get to work. So instead of you going here, essentially what it would look like is this. It would be a straight line, then it would drop, and then you're in that flow state and you're actually able to do work. Now, I don't know about you, but comparing these two lines on the graph, obviously I want to be right here, right? I want to be this brown line. I want to be the line where it's just, oh, I see I have this task to do. I just go straight into it. Oh my goodness, this is easy. Enter that flow state, and I'm actually getting productive. I'm getting disciplined, and I'm making progress towards achieving my goals. In order to get from here to down here, we're going to take advantage of that aspect of yourself from up here, right? If you remember earlier, I said, we can actually use this to our advantage, right? Because humans are naturally lazy, right? We're all naturally lazy. We always want to take the path of least resistance, right? That's ultimately why I did all of this stuff up here, right? Because it was very simple. It didn't take much effort. It was like, oh yeah, I like scrolling, anime, video games, because it didn't take much effort. It was very simple, and that's ultimately why it took me so long to achieve my goals. But we can actually use this laziness to our advantage, right? Because if you were able to make, say, discipline, right, the task that you need to do in order to achieve your goals, easier than doing the stuff up here, you would actually make a very significant amount of progress. So what you want to do is make your task frictionless. You want to make it frictionless, right? So for each of the tasks you listed up here, right, let's go ahead and copy these. All right, we'll put these down here. You want to make it, as frictionless and as easy as possible. Now, for me, as for getting good ideas, right? It's this was difficult for me to figure out how to do, right? Because I like listening to podcasts, I like listening to YouTube videos, audiobooks, that type of thing. But what I didn't like doing was just sitting down at my desk and just listening, because I just wouldn't pay attention. It wasn't very fun, and oftentimes I would end up scrolling on my phone, watching some anime, or doing something unproductive. So what I decided to do was, okay, well, I actually like taking walks, right? I really do enjoy being in nature. So what I decided to do is maybe, just maybe, next time I take a walk, I can listen to a podcast, listen to an audiobook, combine it with something I enjoy, with something that's actually productive. And then when I put those two together, I realized, oh my goodness, every time I go on a walk, I'm able to generate new ideas. It's very good for content. It's actually working. And that's ultimately why I was able to come up with the ideas that made it possible for my personal brand to scale to the degree that it did. Now, as for scripting, content, and recording, right, these two are, I've decided I join them together, right? So what I like to do is I like to wake up in the morning whenever I'm doing my content, right? But getting into that flow of things is very difficult, right? I had to open up my script. I got to type it out. Then I got to set up my camera. Then I'm like, oh my goodness, now I got to plan this all out. I got to do this and that. And it's very difficult to actually get into it. So what I decided to do is, okay, maybe instead of waking up and doing that, I set it up the day before, right? Or I just have it already set up. So that way, when I roll out of bed, I can get straight to work. I don't got to set up my script. I don't got to get the editor open. I don't got to do all of this extra stuff. I literally just get out of my bed. It's like right over there. Y'all can't see it. It's right over there. I get up, I come over to my desk, I sit down, and I can instantly get started on making content. I made it very simple for me to get into that flow, and I actually started making significant progress. Thus, I was able to scale my personal brand so large. And once you've made discipline frictionless, you want to implement the 125x productivity stack. Why did I call it that? Well, I used all of these things and I was able to scale my personal brand by 125x. The first step of that stack is you want to eat the frog. Now, what the heck am I talking about? Well, I want you to imagine that you're eating a 5-course meal, right? I don't know what exactly this is. This looks good, right? You've got some type of vegetables. You got some wine up here, some broccoli, whatever the case may be. We're just throwing some steak and potatoes in there, because come on now, you can't eat without steak and potatoes, right? You have all this good food on your plate, but then there's also a frog there, right? And in this scenario, you have to eat the frog, right? There's no avoiding it. So question for you. Are you going to eat this frog first, or are you going to eat the frog last? I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, second's over. Now, if you decided to eat the frog first, congratulations, you are on the right track. But why exactly? Well, when you eat the frog first, right, you'll be able to cleanse your palate, right? Get all that nasty, slimy frog taste out of your mouth and cleanse it with this good food that we have over here. But let's say you eat this food first, you eat all the good stuff. Now you have to end it off with this nasty frog that's gonna leave that aftertaste in your mouth. You're not gonna have a good time. You're probably gonna throw up later. You're gonna get sick. You're gonna end up in the hospital. It's not gonna be a very fun experience. Well, you wanna do your work the same way. You want to take the hardest task that you have, right? The most hardest, most difficult, lever-moving task that you have, and you want to do it first thing in your day. If you noticed earlier, I told you when I create my content, I like to do it in the morning, right? Because that's the most difficult, lever-moving task that I have to do in order to achieve my goals. Well, by eating the frog, right, doing that first thing in the morning, I'm able to, first of all, get that hard thing out of the way. Then everything I have to do afterward, planning more content, cooking up scripts, writing for my newsletter, all that other stuff, right? It's very simple. I've already done the most difficult thing. I'm able to essentially cleanse my productivity palette with the simpler tasks. Now, once you've understood eating the frog, you want to get hungry. Now, you're probably like, okay, Lem, you just told me to eat a frog. Now you're telling me to get hungry. Something's not making sense here. Well, what you want to do is to work while you are fasted. Now, allow me to explain. If you were to plot hunger and productivity on a graph, you would end up with a positive relationship, right? The hungrier you are, to a certain degree, the more productive you're going to be. Because if we think all the way back to the caveman times, right? Back when people were still living in groups, they were roaming around hunter-gatherers, right? Food wasn't as common as it was today, right? You're not going to walk out of your cave, ooga booga, go to the grocery store, grab some steak, grab some chicken, come home, cook some eggs, right? That's not how it works. You have to go out and actually hunt for the food. And hunting was very difficult, right? They didn't have, they went out, they were hungry, like, oh my goodness, I got to get this food. And so naturally our bodies adapted to work harder when we are hungry, because this caveman is thinking, oh my goodness, I need something to eat. Let's up this productivity. Let's up the speed, right? We got to go catch this bull. We got to catch this cow, whatever the case is, right? And they would work harder because they were hungry. And that still applies to this day, right? When you are hungry, when you are fasted, you are far more productive. And think about it, right? There have been times where you've eaten this really big meal, right? Maybe a big lunch or a big dinner. And then you just feel so sluggish after. You're so tired. You're about to take a nap because you ate all of that food and now you can't really do anything else after that, right? So if we're just taking that as an example, if we plot this on a continuum, right? You know that when you eat a lot, you're not very productive. So on the other end of the spectrum, you should also know that if you are hungry, you will be productive. You will be able to actually get your work done, which is why I stopped eating breakfast until after I got this frog task done, right? Until after I finished that first work block of my day. Then after that I can eat, I'll take a light meal and just get back to work. So you want to, first of all, eat the frog. You want to get hungry. Fast before you finish that first difficult task. And then you want to time block. You want to identify the areas of your day where you'll be completing these specific tasks, because when you do this, it takes all the decision fatigue out of your day. You're not thinking, okay, I've done this, what do I do next? So I got to do that, oh my goodness. And then you just end up procrastinating because your mind is fatigued. You can't actually act on the things that you said you were going to do. But if you put it in your calendar, there's no questioning. Okay, at this time, I'm doing this work. At this time, I'm doing that work. And there's really nothing for you to, there's nothing stopping you. There's no procrastination. You're able to efficiently get through your day and actually get things done. Now, here's an example of, a typical day. I wake up at 6:30, do my morning routine. Then that first word block in the day, right here's where I'm doing my frog test, right? From 7 to 9, I'm creating content, getting in the flow of things, getting that output out, doing the most important task. Then I'll go on a walk, right? I'll listen to a podcast, get some ideas flowing in my head. Then it's back to that second work block. Now, this is where I'm, focusing on other things regarding my business. Maybe I'll say something in my community, cook up some content for my newsletter, other things that aren't as essential as that high level moving task, but it's still important for me to achieve my goal. And then in my third work block, this is the stuff that isn't as important, but it still has to get done, right? Might be responding to DMs, networking, outreaching, that type of thing. Right? And because I've established these specific blocks of my day where I will be doing specific things, I'm able to go into my day with no hesitation, right? With complete clarity that allows me to wake up, get done what I need to get done, and move on to the next day and continuously do that process and ultimately achieve my goals. So, quick summary, right? First of all, you want to establish an intent, right? Once you've understood what you're trying to do, understand that you're the reason that you're not there right now. And once you realize that, you want to figure out the 3 most important things that you have to get done in order to make this intent, turn this intent from a goal into reality. Next, what you gotta do is understand activation energy. Understand that in making things simple and making things frictionless, you will be able to take advantage of the fact that you are naturally lazy and actually use it to accomplish your goals. Thirdly, you want to stack eating the frog, getting that most difficult task done first thing in the day. Then you want to not eat until after you completed that task to take advantage of the fact that you were hungry, increasing your productivity. And lastly, you want to time block the removal of that decision fatigue, take out all of the room for procrastination. And if you're able to do all of that, I guarantee that you will be able to build the discipline necessary to actually make progress toward achieving your goals. Hopefully you found some value in this video. Hopefully you've learned something new. And hopefully you've realized that the discipline that you are seeking, right, the discipline that you need in order to accomplish your goals isn't that far-fetched. It's something that can be easily achieved with the proper framework. And if you want more actionable advice about how you can make discipline so frictionless that it's impossible to not achieve your goals, consider joining my newsletter, which will be the first link in the description. Other than that, click this video here if you want to learn something new, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.